today, and this webinar is my first webinar on Google Forms, so it is being recorded, and I will send you the link to today's recording also in that follow-up email. We updated this course in the PD catalog to actually count towards the 0.5, so in case you were not aware of, it does count now for the 0.5. So that's a surprise bonus here for today. So let's go ahead and get started. I will post the attendance link in that chat at the end of the webinar after I finish delivering the content so we can all fill out the Google form for our attendance. All right, so a little bit about me. I'm Angela Gama, and I'm one of the instructional technology trainers for Modesta City Schools. Here I have my contact information in case you need me in with any needs that you have about technology that you may use in work. So from Microsoft to Google, Schoology, Nearpod, anything you use in your computer, please reach out in case you're stuck or need any help with the training. All right, so what do we have in our agenda for today? We're going to talk about what is a Google form, how to create a Google form, how to choose settings and preview the form that we create, how do you send the form to the respondents, and finally, how do we analyze those responses that come in? Let's go ahead, and at the end we're going to have a Q&A for any live demos you may need me to show you of anything that we talk about today. All right, so first let's go ahead and start with what is a Google form. Well, a Google form is basically a survey you can create online, and it can be with videos or links or images. You have different types of questions you can add. And the great thing about Google is that there is no software required. So you, as the creator of the form, do not need the software to create this form, and neither does the respondent. The respondent just opens the link to the form, and no matter what device they're using, it could be their phone, a tablet, their personal laptop, their desktop computer, it will open in a way that they can read the form nicely. So some ideas of what you could use to create a Google form: it could be to manage any event registrations, create a quick opinion poll, and there's many more that now, since we're working remotely, we highly need to have some questionnaires responded or some forms filled out by either a colleague or parents. We can create these forms electronically so we can make them accessible using any type of link. So in case you have some PDFs or some paper forms that you need to digitize, Google Form may be the solution for you. So how do we create a Google form? Like any other Google type of file, we're going to make sure that we log into our Google account by going into www.google.com. And once we are signed in, we will see our avatar in the top right corner of our screen. We're going to locate the waffle icon that I have there as a number 2. And we're going to go to our Google Drive. That would be the triangle, the colorful triangle right there. And once we are in our Google Drive, we will start by clicking on that new button. And in that drop-down list, we will see forms. If it's not visible in that dropdown, you may need to click on more, and then you will find forms, and you can create a brand new form following these steps. Now, I also have a shortcut there. If you already know that you want to create a brand new form from scratch, you can just type in your URL field forms.new to go directly to a brand new forms creator window. So that would be the easiest, but if you want to follow these steps, that's also the same way of accessing to the Google Forms. Okay, once you click on that create new form, you will get to a window that looks like this. It'll open a new tab in your Chrome browser, and we're going to talk about the different elements that we have here in this first screen. The first part that you may want to do is name your form. As you start creating your forms, they will start by the default name untitled form. So you may want to first name your form to give your respondents a clear idea of what they're going to fill out, what this form is all about. So I have the number ones in both of those spaces because I can name my form in either one. So whether it is the top left or the one included in my form, I can just title the form and click outside, and then the other field will be automatically populated with the name that I apply to one of the options. The second part here is to include any type of form description. So this is giving your respondents more information about what the form is all about. Maybe you want to give them um, a due date of when they need to complete this form, or when will they hear from you after they complete the form, or a little bit more about an event if it's an event registration. So this is a space for you to include a little bit more information about the form. And this is completely optional. You don't have to add anything here if you don't want to add a description. Then the number 3 is to give your form some style. There are some cool headers, and based on the header that you select, there's some background colors that you can use to change the style of the form. You can also choose to upload your own header if none of the built-in ones fit your needs. So if you want to add something more customized, you can certainly do that. But the ones that are in the Google library are pretty fun and colorful, and I haven't felt the need personally to select a custom type of header. I've always gone with the ones that they provide. Okay, so after we complete those initial items in creating our form, we can go ahead and start adding our questions. Because this is created in a Google environment, like any other Google app, this changes are saved automatically. There is no save button. So as I start adding my questions, changing my questions, adding the options or the responses, all those settings, this is going to automatically be saved. So don't worry about losing any changes there. So the first thing I may want to do is enter the question. So in that untitled question field, I'm going to click there and I'm going to start typing the question. Google does a great job at scanning what I'm typing, and it changes automatically to the type of question that would apply to the question that I typed. For instance, right now the default says multiple choice. If I start typing name, it'll automatically change to a short answer type of question. If I type date, it'll change to a date type of question. So it does a lot of the work for me when it comes to kind of guessing what type of question I need. Of course, if Google doesn't do a good job and I need a different type of question, I can always come to this drop down and select from this nice long list the type of question that I may need. So you can go ahead and see this list to know the variety of questions and the capability of what you can do with a Google form. So there's short answer, paragraphs if you want, I think it's like longer than 250 characters, then it would be a paragraph type of question. We got our multiple choice, the check boxes. So if you don't know the difference between these two, multiple choice will only give my respondent the option of selecting one. If I do check boxes, then they can check more than one box. We got our drop-down list. Our respondents can even upload any files. So if they need to upload an image, or I've seen now with this remote learning environment that they need to digitize some forms, they need to upload some sort of a signature or confirmation endorsement. You can do that by selecting the file upload type of question. We got the linear scale, the multiple choice grid, checkbox grid, the date and time. So there's a great variety of questions for us to add to our form. Okay, so now that I selected my type of question, I can go ahead and add the response options. I can add as many as I like, depending on the type of question, of course. So if I stick to the multiple choice, all I have to do is click on the text option 1, and I would enter my option 1. To add another option, I would just click on add option, and then I can start typing my second option, and so on and so forth. It's pretty user friendly. You can really tell where you need to enter those items. Automatically adds the option to add another option. So it's pretty straightforward when it comes to adding those options. Now, another thing, let's see what's going on with my form. Here we go with my slide. Another thing you can do is to make specific question as required. So when your respondent is completing a form, there may be some questions that you don't want to go unanswered. Either it is by, the user inadvertently skipping the question, or just not wanting to answer that specific question, but you really want to get the answer for that one. You can toggle this required option on, and when the respondent clicks submit and this is unanswered, it will tell them, hey, you need to answer all the required questions. These questions are marked with a red asterisk, so they know which questions are required in the form. At the same time, you may need to go back and edit some questions. If you feel the need to modify any of them, you can come back and change your form at any point. So if you need to change your form around, so sometimes when you're entering the questions into the form, you don't necessarily do it in the exact order of what you want your respondents to see, you can just start entering your questions to the form. And then if you need to move an actual question to the top or above another type of question, you can grab that question from those 6 little dots in the top part of the question and drag it to the position where you need it to be. You can also move your answers if you want them to show up in an exact order. You can also move those around by clicking on the dots, and you'll see your cursor change, and you can go ahead and drag and drop those questions. Another thing you can do in a form is provide your answers in forms of images. So if you want to have, instead of options show up as text, you can provide an image as a way for them to answer the question. So you can select the little image icon there, and then you can upload your image in for that question, and you can continue doing the same for the rest. You'll see that little icon pop up. You can also come here and delete a question. That little trash can you will see at the end of each question. You can delete it if you happen to not need it anymore, or if you see that it's redundant, you can come back and delete the question. And at the same time, if you feel like this question is very similar to another you may want to add, just by changing a few words, you can save yourself some time by just clicking in these two like little sheets. That's a copy a question, and it will duplicate the question under that question, and you can go ahead and modify it. So this is great to save some time. Now, when you're in your when you're creating your form, you will see this little toolbar on the right-hand side of your questions, and it will follow you as you scroll up or down in the page. That's why I like to call it a floating toolbar. It's always visible no matter what part of your form you're at. You will always see this on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, this is a toolbar that you will be using to add a new question. That plus sign at the very top is for you to add a new question to your form. Another thing you can do, and this is also a great time saver, is to import questions from any existing forms that you have. So if you already created, for my teachers out there, a test, and you want to do a end of a quarter test with the questions of multiple prior tests that you had, you can go ahead and import X amount of questions from the form that you select to bring into this new form. So you can select all questions from a form, or you can pick those questions that you like to have in this new form. Now, the third option is if you don't necessarily want to add a question to your form. Sometimes you need to provide some information for them, for the respondents to complete the next section of your form, or you just want to provide additional information besides that form description that we talked about in the beginning. You can add text in any space in your form by clicking in those two T's to add that section or that type of, I guess, that text into your form. Another thing you can add to the form, not necessarily as a question, you can add an image before or after a question. You may want your respondents to look at the image before responding the next set of questions, for instance, or if you just want to have like this visual as part of your form, you can go ahead and add an image. Also, you have the option of adding a video. So again, if you want them to see a promo video or any sort of educational video before they move on to the questions, you can add that to your form. And then these two little bars are to add a section to the form. So when you have a very long form, you may want to split the form into different sections. If you don't add sections to the form, it will all be in one page. So your respondents will have to scroll all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom to complete the form. Now, I don't know if you've completed any forms online recently, but there are some that, for instance, the first section is personal information, and you fill out or you complete 3 questions, and then it says next, and then you go to the next page to complete a different set of questions. So this is great to split those very long forms into different sections, different categories that you may feel proper for that type of form. It is also great for something called branching. This is a little bit more advanced, but just so to plant the seed in case you need it, um, the branching is based on your answer, it's going to take you to this specific part of the form. So if you, for instance, there's a question, would you like to donate to this cause, for instance, and then you say yes, or more properly, I say no, then the next question would be, okay, how much do you want to donate? Then if I answered no, this question is not applicable to me, so it's unnecessary for me to go through those questions. So based on an answer, I'm going to then take you to the section of the form that applies to you and not every single question. Okay, so those are some of the options to create and edit some questions in your forms. Another great thing that you're going to be using a lot is the preview, and we're going to talk about how to change some settings in your form. Now let's first talk about some settings that you may want to change when creating a form. The first tab is in the General tab, and this first checkbox is to collect email addresses. So if you do not want to have your one of your questions in your form to say enter your email address, you can leave it automatically to Google Forms to collect these email addresses based on the email they're using when completing the form. So this is great if you automatically want to collect that. And also, by collecting those email addresses, this other option comes to life to response receipts. So if you check this box, the respondents may request a receipt for their responding to form. So this is great for them to document that they completed the form in case they ever need this in the future. This is not very popular, not very much used, but it's there in case you need it. Now, you can also restrict a form to users in Modesto City schools. So if you want to limit the responses of your form to people within the organization, you can check this box, and no one logging in with an outside email address will be able to fill out the form. Another thing you can do is to limit the form to only one response. This is great for registration, so you don't have repeated users in your responses. If you want to have tests or quizzes completed only once, you can limit this to only one response. If you uncheck this, then the respondent can go back to that same link and complete the form over and over again. So you'll have multiple responses from the same person, possibly. Then the edit after submitting, this is if you want your respondents to have the ability to go back to a submitted form and change their responses. So this is up to you if you want them to be able to do that. And also if you like to show a summary chart and text respondents to those respondents after they submit the answers. Now, the next tab in that same settings option is the presentation tab. This is mostly about how it'll be shown to the respondents. The first one there is to show the progress bar. This is probably you've seen it before when it gives you like how much far into the form you're in, so you can see, okay, you completed 40% of the form, you know you're getting there. So this is also this is something that you can have your respondents see how much they completed the form. If you want to shuffle the question order, this is great for, questions that you don't matter what order they need to complete. If you want to go ahead and shuffle them so each respondent gets them in different order. And to show link to submit another response. This is when they submit the response and then you make the link available right there to submit a second or a third or a fourth response right there without them having to go look for that link that you initially shared. And lastly, we got the confirmation message. If you want to personalize that message, your respondents will see when they submit a form. You will come in here and you can just type anything that you want to provide to the users. It's if you don't change anything, you'll see the default show up. It says your response has been recorded, and that's all they will see. Another great thing that you can do in Google Forms is to preview your form. This is to make sure that your form is looking the way you are envisioning it or you're designing it. You can go ahead and click on that preview icon there in the top right corner, and once you click on this icon, a new tab will open. As you can see in the second image here, I have then two tabs and they're named the same. So we got to be careful when we're clicking on this preview button, because as I start clicking that, it'll start opening new tabs. So to go back to my editing mode, I can either click on that editing button in the bottom right corner of my preview, or I can close that tab and go back to the other one. So if you start clicking, again, it's going to start accumulating and you're going to have a bunch of tabs open. Because when I'm creating a form, I typically use this a lot just to verify that my question is looking okay, that my style looks okay, my fonts, anything that I change, I always go and make sure that it looks okay. So I suggest to be careful with the tab, because it's going to start accumulating as you start hitting that preview option. Okay, so now that you created your form and you adjusted the settings, it looks great for your respondents. You're ready to send your forms to be filled out. When you're ready to send it, you can send it by email. You can copy and paste the link in a chat, in a website, or social media. So you're going to look for that send button that it's in the top right corner of your screen, and you will see that you have a window just like this one. And the first option that comes up is to send your form via email. It's nice and simple. In this window, you're just going to add the recipients in the to field. So it is tied to our Modesto City Schools directory. You're just going to start typing the few first characters of that email address, and it's going to show up there as a search result. Then the subject will be automatically populated by the name of the form, but you can go ahead and click there and change the subject. It doesn't need to be the name of your form. And the message you can also add there. It says, I've invited you to fill out a form. You can leave that and complete the sentence or add more information, or you can delete that completely and then add your message there. Then we're going to hit send and it'll be sent as an email. It'll contain all the information, the link for them to open the form and complete. The other option is to create a link. We're going to click on that second option where we have that link icon, and we're going to be able to copy this link and paste it in your website, in your blog, in a text message, anything that you use to share this link. You can also check the box to shorten the URL in case you are providing your form in a printed format. They don't have to type this insanely long string of characters to open this form. So you click shorten URL and it's going to give you a shorter link for you to include in any like paper format that it's not clickable for your users. Okay, so this is tip if you ever want to pause or stop responses collection. Let's say that you have the registration window for a specific event end and you don't want people filling out the form anymore, you can go ahead and click on the accepting on the form's responses, and you can click the toggle the accepting responses off to have it change not accepting responses. It's going to tell the respondent once if they click on the link that it's currently paused, please try again later, or you can customize that message to anything that you like. After you send out the form, you are going to be able to analyze any responses that come in. You may want to be checking periodically your form. You just access it back again in your Google Drive, and you're going to click on the responses tab that is next to the questions tab there in your form when you open it. You can see in the responses directly in forms, and you will have a nice summary of all the different responses, and you can go into the individual responses by clicking on that individual button, and you can go through the different responses there. So it's pretty summarized, pretty straightforward when you're looking at it in Google Forms. But sometimes you may need to sort, filter, or analyze your data in Sheets because you have more capabilities to manipulate your data in Sheets. You can generate a sheet directly in your form to have all those responses go there. In the responses tab, as you can see, I have the questions and then I have the responses. You have to have that selected to see this little window, and we have the Sheets icon here. If you're not very familiar with Sheets, we do have a Sheets webinar that gives you a better idea of the different tools that you can use. If you need assistance with Sheets, you can always reach out to me to learn a little bit more of what you can do in Sheets, but you can go ahead and click on that little icon for Sheets, and it's going to take you to this window to create a brand new spreadsheet for the responses of the form. It's going to generate that practice form responses title for your sheet. You can always go back and rename it, but that's the default name for the sheet that will be generated. Or you can select an existing spreadsheet where you want those responses to go to. So you select either option, you hit create, and then all those responses will start to show up in your sheet as well. Now, there are those three little dots next to the Sheets icon that have additional option. So if you want to get an email notification for every new response, you can go ahead and click on that option. So you get that in your inbox and you go ahead and check that form. However, I don't recommend doing this if you're going to have a large number of people completing the form. You don't want your inbox to be bombarded with emails notifying you that you got a new response. You can just go in there in the form and check them. You can see it in your sheet, see how many responses you got. when you have it in Sheets, it's going to give you a nice timestamp of when the form was filled out, so you can go ahead and filter and sort by date, do all that good stuff in Sheet if you don't want those coming in your email. You can also download any responses to a CSV format, so you can open it in Microsoft Excel if you're more comfortable in Microsoft Excel. And this other one in my toolbar is blocking me, so I can't delete all responses. So if you want to clear all your responses from the form and have this be a brand new form for a different group of people and not necessarily create another form, you can just delete all responses and then you will have a blank slate to begin again collecting responses for that form. Okay, so I know it was a lot for this half an hour, 35 minutes that went by. I want to open the chat to any questions, or if you like to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask me a question if you have any. I will go ahead and while I wait for those to come in, post the attendance form link, which is a Google form. So you can go ahead and access that chat and find the link. I just posted it and click on the link and it'll take you to the Google form to complete the attendance piece. Oh, thank you for your comment. It says that seems pretty easy, especially the way you presented it. Thank you very much for your feedback. I'm happy to know that it was pretty clear. It is pretty user friendly. I say that about any Google apps. They make it pretty easy to learn. We basically help with the introduction of these apps and kind of guide you through the little, settings options that are available. So I think this is a great option for any checking for understanding that you may want to do with your students, any surveys, any polls. Um, for instance, we created a form for the student representative to the board application. So this was a great solution because it was possible to do any file uploads. You can set some questions to be required so you don't get any incomplete applications come in. So it is really, really nice to have this as an option. Let me go ahead and show you something really quick that I didn't include in the presentation. Let me go ahead and open a brand new tab. So the Google Forms, as I said, is not here in this waffle initial dropdown. We need to go into our Google Drive. And if you're not familiar with Google Drive, I highly encourage you to take our webinar or watch the recording of the webinar. I'll share the link for you to watch it in our YouTube channel. But here you can search for your forms. If you just want to see all the forms that you've created using the search toolbar, or if, for instance, you're in the form, there's this little icon here that will take you to your forms dashboard. So in this forms dashboard, you will see all the forms that you've created, and they're typically shared because, I mean, unless you do it for your own documentation, I guess. I have like a tech form that I click on and complete based on the teachers that ask me for help, so I can track anyone that I've helped. So this is something that I've bookmarked and I fill it out on my own, so I have all the information in a Google Sheet. So it's a great way to input data into those sheets for those less tech savvy folks. Anyways, let me go ahead and show you what I wanted to show you. So here in the dashboard, if you don't want to start from scratch with the blank, there are some templates that you can use to do any sort of, form. So there's some order forms, exit tickets that already have like some cool headers and some ideas of questions that you may need. So you just add those extra questions that are not included in the template. So that saves you a lot of time. There are some pretty cool, like for party invites. So nowadays we pretty much send all our invitations via text or online. There's no paper invitations anymore unless it's a wedding. But you can just complete a quick party invite, or if you want to do a potluck, you can just, do this quick form and send it via text to your family members, and then you can know what each person will bring. So this is something that you can use outside of work.